Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. This is Motel A&M podcast. I'm Michael, joined with,
Alex,
and it's a podcast where we talk about everything and anything. So why don't we get started?
why are we here today, Mike?
Um, Interesting question that you should ask. Uh, I feel like this is something that we've always kind of talked about doing, but we've ever never actually done it. I think it's because one, we don't really know much about podcasting, and two, there's a lot that kind of goes into podcasting. After researching, I feel like it's not as hard as what I thought it was gonna be, but in terms of, like, getting everything together how we want it, it's gonna take time to build there. But if, everything goes well, I think this is something I see myself enjoying and doing a lot.
I
What about
agree
you?
with that. I just feel like you and me as a unit, we just mesh so well where we could just pretty much just put everything on the table and not even have to think about it, kind
Yeah,
of thing.
and for, like, a lot of people that don't know who we are, again, I'm Michael, and 27 years old, college student, just trying to figure things out in life. But we play a lot of Rocket League together, and a lot of people that do know me know I love that game. And my doubles partner is Alex, of course. And another thing that inspired us to kind of do this is we have a lot of really good conversations on the Rocket League while we're playing. Sometimes we're just chilling and vibing out. And what do you know, like we have like this 2 or 3 hour, 5 hour conversations that just seems so good. And my little brother actually was like, "When are you guys gonna start a podcast?" And then that's kind of how this started.
Just to throw all our ideas out there and share it to the world.
I think that's also something that's also really enjoyable about a podcast is the fact that when we're in the vibe, really it just conversations just keep pouring out.
I agree. Right, so why don't we get a conversation going then?
All right.
All right, so there's a big thing going on right now in the world. And I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. COVID
COVID?
19.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about COVID.
Yeah. So I know you're in the medical field.
hmm
What do you think has done the most impact to, people from that world medical field?
Like medical professions, like how it affects them, or
Just how have you seen people like take it? Like I know I have a few friends that are saying, "Oh, it might not even be real," but I'm pretty sure you've
mm-hmm.
seen people pass
hmm
from this.
hmm Yeah, so pretty much the area that we're in, it's not that it's too much to handle. We're just not heavily impacted like places like New York, Texas, Florida, where these nurses, doctors, lab techs, radiology techs, anybody that's involved in treating a patient, we're kind of like in a nice tushy spot. And I know it kind of sounds weird to say, but we're not getting like overwhelmingly impacted at the hospital because we have enough rooms to keep these people to get treatment pretty much.
Hmm.
But like you've heard in New York at the beginning how they had to build like what was it
New hospitals.
new hospitals. Like China did the same thing. They had to build a hospital, and I've heard stories. I actually read a story in New York, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a hospital that they pretty much sent all their COVID patients to, and the hospital was just not up to par. And I'm really how like just glad that we didn't have to go through something like that, because that would be truly devastating to see people not, living in standards that you would expect a hospital to live up to. Like clean water, a morgue that has enough space for people who have passed.
Or just not interrupt you there, but just like even just that demoralizes you as a person. You'd be like, well, this is where it's gonna end pretty much if it's not even up to par.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something I'm grateful about our areas. Like I said, we didn't get extremely impacted enough to make top headline news. But I'm glad that I was able to go through, or I'm still part of the experience. I think we're all part of it, doing our own jobs, um, and it's just really exciting to, in 20, 40, 50, 60 years, we could say we're part of this crazy. event that's happening right now.
Couldn't
But
agree more.
to answer your question, I've heard doctors, even here in our small area, that they're sad. They feel sad because they're pretty much sending people home to die because, and this was at the beginning more or less, and that's because we didn't have a way to treat COVID, and technically we still don't have a way to treat COVID. So they were sending people home with some antibiotics
Just
to
the
die.
quarantine.
Yeah, and it's sad because when you're a nurse, you go through like 2 years or even more of schooling to like help save lives. And I would hope that a lot of nurses keep that in mind and have that mentality when they're at the hospital. And to kind of like not be able to do your job or to not feel helpful, I'm pretty sure that takes a huge effect on a lot of people
Just a
that are,
person in general.
yeah. I had a friend that was on seventh floor, and that's the COVID ward. She went through like seven, I believe it was seven codes, and she said she took part compressions for all of them. And that weekend was really bad because there was, I believe, like 15 deaths in just 3 days. And
That's a lot.
who knows more? Yeah, and she was part of all of it. And people are scared about the whole COVID situation, even if they think it's real or not. You could tell people are scared, and it sounds really harsh, but not everybody wants to help because they're terrified of getting to the person, like to the uh person who needs help. I guess I would say.
The one thing I do want to add is I feel like our community. I do feel like they're scared about it.
Hmm.
But when this whole like pandemic started, our community didn't really care. No masks, all that
Yeah, it
stuff,
took
and I
a
feel like
really long time.
that's what really when we started to get like a huge spread,
Hmm.
and it affected. Well, for the listeners, I should say, we're not a rich part of the nation.
No, not at
We're
all.
probably we're really we need help, but
Not to mention, but like the hospitals aren't ready
well
for anything
just
like.
we didn't have testing for a good amount of time too.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's when we started getting that huge spike that people weren't getting tested.
Well, do
And
you
then when they
remember?
did, yeah,
Do
go
you
ahead.
remember? Sorry. Do you remember that one weekend? I don't know if it was like Memorial Day or Labor Day weekend. We had, was it a fair? I can't remember what it was, but there was a weekend where people just completely ignored all precaution signs or taking precaution steps, and that's when we saw a huge spike. I remember reading the report for our city, and we went from like having like 200 to I think it was like 800. So we went from, like in 3 days we went up 500 cases. I was like, oh my goodness, that's
And then
insane.
every day after that, we were going in the thousands.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's also kind of scary to see. It's like I feel like Merced, sorry, I feel like Merced is an area that is really good about following directions, but I do agree, like, everybody was pretty nonchalant about it. I guess that's the correct term I would say.
Yeah. Or just, I don't even want to say, but maybe ignorant to the whole thing.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a lot of people. No, I think it's because part of it is not understanding the actual, like, physiology and biology of the disease. One I remember one instance, we had gone out with some of our other friends to get ice cream, and we were waiting outside, and a gentleman came out, and he's like, "I'm laughing at the people who still wear masks," and that's when I realized, like, people are ignorant no matter how much, like,
You want
stuff
to
is
help them?
happening in the world. Yeah, like, people just won't understand it because they don't see it or they don't understand, and that's when I really, like, figured out, like, okay, like, there has to be a different approach to combating COVID and taking proper precautions.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, let's segue a little bit past. Well, I do want to get your take on how do you feel like sports are handling it? Because we just had the NBA bubble where they literally couldn't leave it, but they were testing every day, and no one came out positive, thank God. But like
Yeah.
right now, I don't know if you've heard, the NFL is getting so much. Uh, some games are getting canceled. There's a lot of cases popping up on a lot of teams. So how do you think sports are handling it wise?
Um, Sports. I miss them. I miss hearing whistles blowing. I miss hearing people screaming in the stands. And I think it's weird because this past weekend while I was working, the rooms had TVs on, and clearly a lot of them were watching the sports.
Hmm.
And it was just so weird to see like not all these stands were filled, but the stadiums were being filled. But like it sounded like there was like 10,000 people in the stadium,
Yeah.
and it must be really weird for the players. But in cases of like how the NFL's take or like handling the situation, I can't really give a good response because I don't really follow like the health with the NFL or any sort of sports. But I feel like they should wait. And I know that's like a lot of people probably disagree. Like it's time for us to get back to normal. But I mean, even though it's not in the news or like just out and about, like you don't hear much about COVID anymore.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that it's not there. Like
It's
it's still
still
there.
on.
Like
Yeah.
Ebola is still here. Like people don't understand. Like there are cases still popping up with Ebola in the United States. I feel. Um, and
So
just like
you're
recently,
yeah. Go ahead.
wasn't there a Lake Tahoe scare for like the plague or whatever?
I didn't. Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, people were like flocking over there, and they're like, the bubonic plague is back. There's been a case or two. I mean, I feel like that's that should be a perfect example. Like we should never drop total precautions because we don't hear about it or see it every day. Just
Yeah.
just be careful is pretty much what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because I did want to segue a little bit because the arenas are placing people around, going by state.
Mhm.
I know Texas and well, I'm an Eagles fan for anyone out there, so go Eagles. They're gonna start adding fans into the stadium as well.
Yeah, I
So
think I read like only 10% or like a certain percentage is allowed to be in the stadiums now,
and
which
here's
I think
what
is fine.
is weird to me, like how do you place people? Like, oh, I have a family of 8. Oh, you wanna you wanna be closer to the field? That's what's like throwing me off. Like, how are you placing people well enough, far enough to not, spread it, even if they do or don't have it?
In a perfect world, I think um it'd be up to the stadium to be like, okay, who wants to buy this seat, and are you willing to pay this much? How many spaces are you gonna want? And then they would plan around that one family, and they would keep planning around um everybody. Like okay, we have a family of four here, we got to move 6 spaces out, and we can set another family of two or three in this general area. So I feel like that's how it should be, but I'm not really sure.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's a waste of resources to let's get it like down to almost nothing,
hmm
and then we could start living back in the perfect world we had.
yeah, it's gonna take a long time for us to get back to
It's tough.
normal.
It is tough.
Already this year, it's been just I feel like 2020 has just been such a dragged year. I
Not
don't
to mention our state.
yeah, like we have nothing to do, and I'm ready to go out. And when I heard that the movies are gonna be opening back up, I was like, bro, I am so ready to go to the movies. Let's
I
go
did.
get
I didn't know how much I wanted to see a movie until I heard the movies are opening back up.
yeah. And then Regal just announced that they're closing
Yeah, the town over.
temporarily
Yeah.
like 580 theaters. I was like, you can't be doing this to me, man. I'm not going to LA for a movie.
Oh, I don't know if you probably want to try a drive-in movie because I hear those are, going off right
Well,
now.
yeah, I was just about to tell you, drive-in movies are coming back, and they are popular than ever. The Madeira one, there's a new one in Turlock
We have one in series.
series. I didn't even know there was one in series, so like they're
It's
coming
like
back.
right before Medessa. Yeah.
And I feel like as a group, like if you go with your friends, like that's such a perfect like evening because we're approaching fall, and fall in the valley is just
Sweater weather.
exactly like
I love
chill
that look.
nights, eating some pizza. I mean, getting some food and taking it into the
Some
theater.
bonfires.
Hmm. I'm ready for that type of weather.
All right.
So, we've been talking a lot about COVID. Why don't we talk about you for a minute? Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and
My
explain
name
what
is
we do?
Alex. I'm just turned 25, so quarter of a century. Yay me.
Halfway
Uh,
to halfway to halfway to 50.
oh man, don't remind me. My mom reminds me how old some of my cousins sons and daughters are, and I'm like, how are they that old already? And then I start thinking back, I'm like, man, I was like 17, 18 when they were born, and I'm 25 now. Just mind blowing. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
So I work in fast food. I've been doing fast food now for a good 3 years almost. And I did a lot of warehouse work for a year. It was all right. It was good pay, but it does take a toll on your body. Um, you know, I'm here still trying to figure out life too. I do want to go back to school and figure out what I want to do with my life, and we'll see where we go from there.
Hmm. And for people who don't know, I think there's a very few amount of people that actually know this. But we actually met working at the same fast food. It was very funny
Yeah,
how we met because it was just an instance. Like, of course, like you see your coworkers, but like there's coworkers that you just kind of keep as coworkers, like you don't really like plan on being friends with. But then there's something that just pops up. Like for us, it was Rocket League, and he was like, "You play Rocket League?" And I was like,
I
"Yeah, I
just
play Rocket League."
I just heard you in the distance, and I was like, wait, because I would only play by myself,
Hmm.
and to hear someone else play, I'm like, oh man, we have to play, and it just blossomed from there.
And for to explain Rocket League, it's just car soccer. That's really all that it is. You're just flying cars with
Thanks for
rockets.
making sound the game so interesting.
I mean, to break it down to the most simple, I could say some of the craziest things about Rocket League, but honestly, when it comes down to it, the basics for everybody to understand, it's just car soccer,
Yeah,
and it could get really intense. And you can have a lot of fun with people that you play with and mesh well with, and that's kind of where me and Alex kind of started hanging out more. Was because of that one mention of Rocket League at our job.
the one thing I do want to say, when I did start Rocket League, I was terrible, and I don't think I'm the greatest yet. But all those hours of grinding and just talking is just where we are now, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be grateful for that because we would just. I remember sometimes we would play from like 5 or 6 in the evening till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and
All right,
we were
well,
like, "What are we doing with it?"
I hope my job doesn't hear this, but I used to call in just to keep playing Rocket
Yeah,
League.
I did it once or twice too. Like
We
it
were just
was,
having some good nights.
yeah. It was sometimes the conversations were just too good to be like, "All right, I can't go to bed yet. Like, we got to keep talking about this." And not only that, but like the bets that we would make too. Like, "All right, we're not quitting until we make this rank or whatever." And a
uh,
lot of times, that's what was happening. Made me call it like the ranks.
I don't know if you remember recently, but we were playing with one of our buddies, and I was getting tired of losing, and I said, "All right, next loss, we're getting off."
Hmm.
We didn't end up getting off for another 2 hours
Yeah, yeah,
because it just, I don't know, we just started winning from their
yeah. We're a bunch of cool
misfits.
guys. Yeah, kind of. But we're cool. We chill. A little bit nerdy, but I think everybody should have a little bit of nerd in them, or else they're a little boring. But that's just my opinion.
So I have a little segue we can get on here.
What's up?
Uh, so I used to call in not just to play Rocket League,
That's true.
but the first time I called in, uh, Michael and one of our friends took me out to go eat about 2 hours away.
Mhm.
And I like to think we're a little bit of food critics out here, and we know our stuff when it comes to food,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
Michael.
No,
Michael is a
no.
very harsh critic.
Well, I think
I'm
what
not
makes me
picky.
harsh, yeah, I feel like the pickiness makes me super harsh, but, like, I don't know, man, you gotta love what you eat.
True. I mean, um, just coincidentally, um, there was a burger joint that opened up literally on the next town over, and me and Michael tried it out for the first time. It was brand new. Like, it's not a chain or anything. It's just a local one, and we loved it so much. I ended up taking my mom, and that's her favorite burger spot now
Mhm.
for life.
And like I told Alex, I ordered that on Saturday, and boy, do I got a bone to pick with them. They will never sponsor a podcast as long as I live.
Damn, I do like them. I don't know if you want to say
No,
that.
they're good, they're good.
They just messed
Um,
up.
they just messed up that day. They've messed up a few other times, so, like, I've always if I've ever had to pick between that and, like, In-N-Out, I'm always like, "You know what? In-N-Out." But when I hang out with you, I do crave, um, that
It's something
place.
different.
Yeah, well, no, it's just, like, it's the experience, because
That
when
too.
you go hang out with people, like, your whole vibe could change or your mood. Because like, when I hang out with you, I crave more burgers
And ice
and
cream
and ice cream, uh,
and
and
Chinese.
Chinese, yes, yes. We eat a lot of burgers and
Asian,
Chinese. It's our diet's really not the
just
greatest.
Asian in general because we love Korean barbecue too.
Yeah, Korean barbecue.
You can poison this man with that.
I found that by mistake, and it was during a manager meeting that one of my old bosses took us to for like this huge dinner, and I was shocked. And they were like, "You could eat here, whatever you want, order whatever you need for the whole 2 hours." And I was
You
like,
said
2 hours?
buffet for 2 hours?
Buffet. If you've never been to Korean barbecue, if you have never heard of it, mainly you should go for the social experience. You go with a
Definitely.
group of friends, and you guys just chill, talk out. I believe traditionally, it's the youngest that always cooks, but I mean, who cares about that?
We don't follow rules.
We don't follow rules. We're rebels. If I took the youngest, I don't think the dinner or our food would ever be cooked
Whatever
right.
be be raw.
It would be raw. And so you go there, you order your appetizers. That's how usually most of them are. You order appetizers and you order just this buffet of meat. It could be
Your
steak. It
choice of
could be
entrees.
yeah. It's you got meat, chicken, fish, seafood, octopus, all that good stuff, and of course you get unlimited white rice. And personally, my favorite is pot stickers with shobu shobu, and shabu shabu is really thin sliced beef, and it's super. Ugh, it's actually
But
really
do
high.
not waste. Do not waste.
Yeah, do not waste. You
Eat
eat,
what you can.
eat. Yeah, don't let your eyes be bigger than your stomach. If you're feeling a little full by
You know,
round three, and you're like, you know
the
what, let me
bell's
do
coming
another.
off
Yeah,
and you can't. Yeah,
and a tip is drink water. Don't drink soda because if you drink soda, you're gonna get full on the soda, and you're not gonna be able to eat much.
I always drink a lot of soda, and that's always my downfall.
But you know what? Soda's good too. I did. I think the last time we went, with
You
our
drink
other
a
pal,
you drink a
I drink
lot
soda.
of you drink a lot of soda I think that day too.
I did. I think I had like 2 or 3 cups. Plus, we
And
had
we
the
had
sake bombs,
we had the sake bomb as well. We were
and
hungry.
dude, I was starving. I think we all had like fasted all day.
It was 3 rounds of 3 people, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, I highly recommend Korean barbecue and go with people that you could, talk to and just have a good time with. I feel traditionally, um, a lot of like our listeners might have parents that really are into that because it's not something that they've ever like experienced. Like when I took my parents there, my
Oh,
mom
my
was like,
parents would be
"Yeah,
over the moon with that.
really." My
Yeah.
parents were like, my mom was like, "Yeah, it's good, it's cool. Like I understand the social vibe." And my dad's like, "Well, wait, why do I need this? Like I could just cook
Why do
this at
why
my
do I have
house."
to cook it?
Yeah, why do we gotta cook it? Like he was not like really down for it. And we do Korean barbecue here at my house, and he's not really into it. Like I feel like he kinda gets kinda grumpy because he's like, "I don't wanna have to cook all this." Like, it does take a while to cook, especially if you do it at your home with, like, a little, like, I don't know, mediocre grill, like, it's not
It
gonna be
is
the fastest.
it is definitely just to hang out with your friends and catch up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I highly recommend a Korean barbecue any day of the
Okay,
week.
so Mike can go all day and all about K barbecue.
Dude, I'm not kidding, he's not kidding. I really can't. And to tell you, I meant to tell you today I found out that our place in Fresno is actually open again.
Oh,
Yeah. So, real quick,
might have to
I don't know.
drive out there.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but
Uh,
recently you got sick,
yeah.
and I
Hopefully
wanted
it's
to
not.
take. Yeah, hopefully it's not anything we suspect.
Yeah.
But that's something I wanted to take you and our other pal to, because I feel like the meat there quality is better than the one in 2 hours away.
Yeah. Well, let's get yeah, I feel like we're some decent food critics. Keep
Hmm.
going on food. What's your take on street food? Like, what's like one street food you'd be like, oh man, I want this whenever you go out.
I feel like I know your answer, but mine I don't feel like I know my answer.
Do
You
you want me to
know,
go first?
yeah, you go first, and okay, can I say what I think you might think it
Go
is?
for it. Yeah.
I feel
Let's
like
see how well you know me.
I feel okay. Well, now I feel like this is like I just got like a bunch of pressure just got put on me. I feel like it's halal. Like you mentioned halal a lot, and I don't know if there's street vendors in New York, but I feel like you did say halal is way better in New York than it is here. And
So yeah. So I was stuck between hot dogs in New York and
Mhm.
halal. The halal guys, if they could ever, sponsor this, oh my god, just eat it all day,
Dude,
Yeah,
halal is actually really good.
when uh when I was younger, my family and I used to travel a lot, so we would go to New York, and whenever we'd stop there, kind of like the people who have been there, they'd be like, "Oh, you need to try this." There'd be a line of like 20 people waiting for this food. I'm telling you, it's pretty great. It's just a bunch of meat with some rice and a little salad and this famous white sauce that they put on it. And people will wait hours just to get that.
Hmm.
But you can't go wrong with the hot dog right next to Central Park.
Bro, I feel like if you go to New York, you have to get, like, a hot dog. What are they called? Hoagies?
A hot dog and pizza.
Pizza. New York slice of pizza is probably one of the things I need to try before I die.
Now,
But
don't
go
get me
ahead.
wrong, always the original is better. The halal New York on the street is way better than these chains that are out here on the West Coast.
Mhm. I feel like once you get into a chain, the food quality just kinda drops. And I'm not saying, like, they're terrible. They are pretty good.
It's pretty good. I do still eat it because
Mhm.
I do love me some halal.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
me I'm not sure what I like street food. Honestly, I would say tacos because I love tacos. I've gone to
tacos
a
on the
lot of
street
tacos on the street, man, like in LA, are
or in the
really
bay.
good. I've never actually had tacos. I've always dude, they're always cooking up the corn or the hot dogs with the bacon and like the onions.
Oh, you should even like in Modesto, like anything after like a concert, they'll have vendors all outside. They're like, this is the best place, to sell, so they'll
Mhm.
be out there right after.
No, I do want to try like more street foods, but I feel like in our area, like there's not a whole bunch. Like literally, the closest street food we have is that one place in downtown. Uh, I don't want to give too much information out, but
Are you
it's
talking
down
about?
to it's next to
Oh,
that uh Quick and Pay, next to Quick and Pay in that area.
okay, yeah, yeah.
And they have like this stand and they cook outside, and literally that's like the closest thing to street food I think we have out here.
Well, not to go too far off of what we're talking about, but we did used to have like Hispanics going around with like the
The
how do you say
pan,
it? We did used to have the bread going around, the sweet
dude.
bread.
I was telling my mom the other day, I was like, I haven't seen that guy in like forever.
Maybe
They're
just
the
quit, man.
sweetest people, dude.
Yeah.
They're super sweet. I mean, I never knew a lot of like I don't speak great Spanish, but I would always go up and ask for what was it? It was that cake with the pink frosting on top with sprinkles,
Oh,
like, but it's like the circle sprinkle.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I would always ask for. And this one guy, he drove, I think it was a pink van too. He would always come by the block, and if my mom had money, we'd go out and she talked to him. She got my order, and it was always just so like soft, and I just felt like it was just always made fresh, like right then and there.
Yeah, but I do feel like it would take a lot because they drive around in vans. You'd have to like pretty much convert the back of the van into like an oven, pretty much just to keep it
Hmm.
warm.
Yeah.
But the ones I'm talking about are like the ones that we used to sell, like corn and like I don't know if you know like Doritos,
Hmm.
all that like the raspados, all that. I don't even see them around. I haven't seen them in
Mm-mm.
years.
No, me either.
I feel like I don't know the part of me that's like getting older. It's like that was my childhood. Just having that around.
Yeah.
Honestly, this summer I didn't even see the ice cream man that come around.
Dude, when I was in high school, there was this huge like taco truck style um gentleman that would drive around. And me and my friend in high school would always be like, "Bro, look at this guy!" And like we would look at his inventory because this man sold ice cream, popcorn, hot Cheetos with cheese in the bag,
Damn,
chips. Like he sold so
he was
much,
loaded.
dude. He was literally loaded, and we would always look at him and be like, "It's Fat Boy Fantasy!" And like always, all the time, like just rush him. And there was a story because he always carried like this sick looking dagger on his waist.
Mhm.
and someone said that someone tried to steal something, and he took the dagger out and, like, sliced the kid's thumb off or finger off, and it just became, like, this urban legend of our area, like
That's why.
yeah, that I know exactly where he lives because he parks that bad boy, like, in his driveway, and so, like, every time I do go by that street, I'm like, "Fat Boy Fantasy, like, you need to come back." I'm just like, I just can't believe, like, that, like, little, like, urban legend circulated around him, and so people were, like, always scared to, like,
Go up to him.
over well, no, like, over I guess, like, overstep their boundaries with giving him money because they were scared, like, he was gonna chop their fingers off.
Oh man, sounds wild. Um, you want to keep talking about food, or did you want to segue into one of your topics?
Um, we can keep talking about food, but there's something you did mention earlier that I did kind of want to talk about. I think it's interesting. I don't know you, and I don't think any of our listeners really know us too well. I want to talk about our childhoods.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like that's something interesting to talk about. You want to go? I'll let
uh,
you go.
well, my childhood, man. So my parents were both Mexican immigrants, came here to the U.S. My mom was actually pregnant when she came over. So growing up, I didn't know any English because the only thing that was spoken in my household was Spanish. So the first few years of school were really rough. I was in English language development classes because I didn't know any English at all. Now we were not wealthy at
Hmm.
all. We used to when we first got here, we used to live with a lot of my uncles and aunts that were already established here. But I know my parents are fighters and they've always done what they had to do to build their own life. And we're not even rich now. We struggle. This isn't a booming economy where we're at by any
Hmm.
means. Very very poor
Hmm.
community, but we make do. I eventually, obviously, I learned English now that I'm talking here. It was so
He's
funny
using
because
Google Translate this entire time.
yeah, it was so funny because when I finally quote unquote graduated from my classes, they held a pizza party for us just to say that we knew English. So I was like, all right, this is kind of demoralizing. But yeah, around like third grade, I was learning just enough English to where I could follow along with school.
Hmm.
But I don't regret any. My parents did everything to give me a good childhood and not waste it. We used to travel a lot. Remember one of my first trips was to Disney World out in Orlando. So I do know my parents care for me, and my childhood may have not been the easiest, but you know at least I'm not struggling now with life and all
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Pretty much
Real
how
quick,
my childhood went.
real quick question. People say that English is one of the hardest languages to learn. I don't think it is the hardest, but I do understand how they could say it is hard. Do you remember English being hard to learn?
Um, like, honestly, now that I'm 25, I hardly remember elementary school.
Mhm.
But what I do remember vividly from like kindergarten, I couldn't remember shapes because I would confuse the names of them.
Mhm.
Um, man, this was back. I was in kindergarten 2000, 2001.
Oh
Um,
man.
I had a trouble. I knew what the shapes were, but I didn't know what the names were. So I'd sometimes I'd be like my we would take I don't know if you ever did, Mike, because I know you're 2 years older than I am. We would take these tests like at the end of the year when you're like really young. They'd be like, "Oh, what's this?" And they'd be like, "Oh, that's a square," and they'd write it or they'd like exit to
Mhm.
see if you were ready to go on to the next grade.
Yeah, it's like a proficiency test, I think
Yeah, I think
they're
so.
called.
So I had a lot of that trouble of that growing up. Also, I don't know if the viewers want to. I don't know if the listeners want to hear this, but I was a bit of a misfit when I was young.
Mhm.
So uh, in Hispanic households, that doesn't fly. So there was a lot of talking tos when I
Yeah.
was younger. Yeah,
Oh man.
but with English, yeah, it did take me a while, well, especially because I couldn't practice it anywhere else but school.
But school, yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine how that's you know kind of and it's nowhere near the same. But like Japanese, like I feel like the only way I could learn is if I'm in school. And right now we're in this situation where we can't be in school, and I only talked to one other person in my class, and we're both like kind of like I think that's right. So I mean,
Like you
you were
wouldn't
like
know either.
you were like 5 or 6, and you had to do that like kind of like on your own. So that's kudos to you. That's awesome.
How to kind of learn. I don't know if this is a little shout out, but I did manage to learn some English
Hmm.
from like Blue's Clues. I loved Blue's Clues when I was a kid. So
I
my
only
dad,
know Blue's Clues because of my sister.
yeah, Blue's Clues. My dad would buy me one VHS tape. So VHS, remember those
Hmm.
big cartridges? My dad would buy one every Sunday from a Kmart, R.I.P. Kmart.
Right, the Kmart.
Oh man, Kmart was the go-to place, man.
Dude, they had good fries.
Man, just I remember when we were young, we would just go just to play the games.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, Kmart was always the spot where like, oh, we're not doing anything. Let's go to Kmart. But yeah, my dad bought me a lot of Blue's Clues, and I learned from that. And I remember growing up, I would always watch the Magic School Bus. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, dude, Magic School Bus was
Magic School Bus was amazing.
mhm. I saw a post recently, and it was like the real ones who taught us, like, in class, and it was Bill Nye. There was another guy I don't know, the science kid, and then, the Magic School Bus, and I was like, "That's so true, dude." Like, I learned so much from those guys.
I do remember Magic School Bus was really good at explaining stuff, even for like a
Mhm.
7-year old.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how mostly I learned English. My dad, he understands English. He's been here for 25 years now,
Mhm.
but he has a hard time speaking it. But he learned it from watching Simpsons and Family Guy.
Oh, wow.
How my dad learned.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. What about you?
Um, well, I was born and raised well, actually just born
Just bored.
and just born in Modesto because I only spent to like 95. So I was born in 93. I think in 95 I went to I think that's when we moved. We moved to Atwater and or yeah, that's where I was born and raised. And pretty much I lived my life here. I loved hanging out with my neighborhood friends. I never ever really like was a person to sit inside because I was alone. Like my family was an hour and a half away. All my cousins that I used to hang out with were, hour and a half away. So I love to be out in the dirt making Hot Wheels tracks and stuff like that. Um,
For that.
and I would hate being alone. Like I hated not having a friend to hang out with and talk to. Um, I I just hated it. And even my mom's like, I kind of felt bad because you were alone a lot. I was like, yeah, mom, I know you wonder why I'm the way I am today. I went to kindergarten. I got in trouble a few times. I wasn't really necessarily a smart kid. I think I was just like like a legit like average Joe. Like my story is just pretty plain. Like, I don't really have much. It wasn't. I went to one elementary school. I got moved during third grade, I believe.
Yeah.
Fourth grade, I started at a different elementary school. That's where I met a lot of like my um teen friends. I would say like a lot of people that I would hang out with till I was in high school.
I'm
There was
sorry,
a
I don't
lot
want
of
to cut you off, but how difficult is it going from a school like just transitioning to a different school? Because I was lucky enough to keep going to the same school and finish like the whole years I was there.
mhm.
I couldn't imagine what
So
it is like making friends and then leaving them and then having to make new friends.
yeah, so I think when you're a kid, especially at that age, like it is very scary. I remember I was terrified to go to Tom's or the other school, sorry. And I remember fourth grade, first year, I had this teacher named Miss Patterson, and I felt like I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but I did not feel like she liked a certain people. and I was in that class, and I felt like she was so mean to me. I remember I had to go into a parent-teacher conference because I felt my parents were like, "Why are you failing? Like, we're gonna have a conference with her." And she asked, "What's going on? Like, why are you failing? I help you with everything." I'm like, "No, you don't." And I start crying, and I'm like, "You're so mean to me." Like, I legit was bawling, and I was telling this teacher how mean she was, and my parents were like, I remember they took me home,
They didn't believe you?
and no, they did. They actually
Mm,
like, "Do you want McDonald's?" Like, we didn't know this is how you were being treated because they could see how this teacher was interacting with me.
yeah.
Like, they could sense that she was being super fake. I will never forget her because I did not like her. She made me cry. But like I said, I did make some friends there. Uh, I think that's where I met one of our other friends. Um, I met him in 6th grade, and we actually got in trouble for really explicit "your mom" jokes.
Oh.
Yeah, we were passing back "your mom" jokes, and we got
Oh,
caught.
you remember that? Passing notes in class?
Oh yeah, dude.
Make you feel old now.
I went to another, after I think 6th grade, we went to a different or a different school. It was middle school, I believe. And that's where it was like I was pretty scared, to be honest. It was not, it's not known for being like a hack school, I guess you would say, if you
Oh,
catch
kinda like clean?
do not this school is clean. It's just the people. I mean,
Ah,
there was thugs everywhere. I was like, bro, I'm gonna graduate 8th grade looking like a thug.
for the listeners that don't know, our community is very ag orientated, so there's a lot of, like, cowboys out here in these parts.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with them.
No, no, no,
Uh
it's just that's just the biggest thing that's out here.
yeah, I think that's what our area is actually known for is agriculture more than anything else. But yeah, so I went through there. It wasn't until high school that my mom and dad started trying to get me more involved because I was always either I think up until 7th or 8th grade, I started staying inside more and I started playing video games. And my parents were like, okay, it's cool, like let him do his thing. And we would actually we no, I don't please don't think bad of me or my family. We're not rich. But at one point in our household we had 3 Xbox 360s and we would play this game called Gears of War. And we would have a family night where it was my mom, my dad, me, my brother, my aunt, my uncle, and we'd do private matches and we would just game for like 2 or 3 hours in a row. And that was when it was kind of okay. It wasn't until high school I started getting more like latched onto video games, and that's when my dad signed me up for football. I hated that. I really hated doing any physical activity because already I forgot to mention this. I was many people might not know this. Very few people know that I was actually in scouts. I was a scout and then I went to Boy Scouts. In middle school, they signed me up for taekwondo. So I was doing 3 different activities and I was like, "I'm so over this. I hate all of it. I just want to play video games. Like I don't want to do anything else." Um, I continued my high school career. I dropped out of scouts. I almost was an Eagle Scout, which is like the highest. In taekwondo, I almost had my black belt, but I stopped. Football, I stopped after freshman and just focused on academics. And I had lots of dreams of doing things by the time I was 21, but things in life change.
Life happens.
Yeah. I've lived in Atwater. Sorry. I told Alex like, well, let's not try to be so like specific, but I'm just out here like when you get in the like zone, like you're just talking and you don't really watch what you say. So I do apologize. But I've lived here in Atwater majority of my life. I did move with some family down south for the last 6 months of my high school career, I guess. Then I came back, and then I've been here ever since. It's not as
And here you said
exciting.
it wasn't that exciting.
It's not exciting. I mean, to me, like, when I think back to it, I was like, "Man, I shoulda just went for the Eagle Scout. I should have went for black belt." Because my, like, teacher for taekwondo was, like, he was impressed with me and this other girl, and he was actually thinking, and I think he talked to my mom and talked to the other girl's mom that he wanted us to teach classes. But
Mhm.
at that time, I was, like, kinda, like, burning out because I had been doing it, I think, for, like, what, 4 years, I believe, and I was just getting tired, and, I kind of regret, like, not staying in sports and being active. I
I get
feel
it.
like yeah, like, I wish I would've after high school, I picked up track, I guess, or cross country. I would be running I started running a lot. I think it was kinda, like, to take the stress away of being an adult, because when you go from out of high school lived with, a girlfriend at the time, and I was only 18, my parents were in Sacramento, hour and a half away, and I'm kinda having to do this, like, not on my own, like, I had people there, but, like, still, like, you're on your own technically, and you have no idea what to do, you don't know how rent works, and I remember I would try looking for a place to rent, and the lady asked, "Well, what's your price range?" I was like, "Oh, like 300, 250," and she's, like, laughed at me, and she's like, are you serious?" I was like, yeah, I mean, that's how much I'm getting charged right now." She's like, "Oh, you're not gonna find anything for, like, that low, like, maybe 500 or 600." I was like, "Ugh." Oh, man.
That's all my money for the month.
I didn't even make that much. At the time, I was working at, good old Blockbuster.
Oh, R.I.P. Blockbuster too.
RIP Blockbuster. I always tell my dad, "You're the reason why that went down. Solely took over." But yeah, man, that's kinda like my childhood. Um, Different experience, but it was for sure something I always wanna go back to.
Oh yeah, I do remember my high school life being so much fun because I did involve myself with a lot of sports,
Mhm,
especially track. Just going to go out besides your academics, going out to like invitationals on Saturdays
mhm.
where you're pretty much racing the best of your county or like the region, just to
Yeah,
see how good you are, and just friends you grew up with and see how you get to see how competitive you really are, even with yourself,
yeah,
because
and
you always want to hit a PR.
I feel, if we have any, like, young listeners in high school, I feel like or I'm hoping that COVID kind of helps you realize, like, how much you need to be in high school and how much more you should be in, like, participating in
Or
high school
just
because
enjoying in general.
yeah, like, in high school, like, they say, like, high school is the funnest, it's a fun part of your life, and honestly, it was a fun part. I didn't really have a lot of fun. Like, I did enjoy it, but I had the most fun my last 6 months when I was in a new high school because I could be someone else, and I'm not saying I was someone else, I'm just saying
People didn't know you and you could do what
yeah,
you wanted.
and I was, like, super popping, I was decent over here, but over there, I was, like, a superstar, like, they'd never seen someone from outside their area. I remember that, like, I felt like I was super popular. So, like, you get to experience like, you should definitely go out and experience, and I keep telling my brother, like, I hope he knows maybe if he didn't get invited or maybe he did get invited, he didn't wanna go, like, I don't want him to regret that type of stuff in the future.
The I do for any of the listeners who are still in high school or gonna be in high school, I do regret not involving myself more with like just going to sports and like seeing your fellow classmates, like just how
Mhm.
fun that can be. Because my younger brother, he's 3 years younger, and I would go to all his sports, just encourage him. But then I saw myself getting involved at it too, like my senior year, and I just felt like, oh man, this was so fun. Like, why didn't I do this earlier? Or even prom. I wasn't even gonna go to prom. I said, no, that's not for me. Like, some like I don't know how to dance and this and that.
Mhm.
But after that experience, you're like, yeah, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, for sure. I never went to any dances, and, I did go to prom, and I actually really did enjoy prom. I do agree.
Speaking of prom, I have a little story. I don't know if you
That's
know
like
this. So we ended up going as a group. It was me and like five other my classmates. So it was three couples going, and we all go to this restaurant in the next town over, and we're all dressed up. We show there, and prom is usually like at the end of the year for us.
mhm.
So like the the elders like know what's going on. They're like, "Oh, you guys going to prom today?" And you're like, "Yeah." So we're all dressed up. We're gonna eat and then head out to the prom.
Mhm.
What ends up happening is it
Oh,
was six of us. There was this one couple who paid for all of our dinners.
yeah, 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 you did tell me this. That's
Yeah,
dude, that's
so I'm like, damn, that's like heartwarming, and you go enjoy your prom after that.
yeah. I feel like people nowadays aren't like that at all,
Oh
like,
no,
I was driving on the highway and I saw this gentleman and it wasn't extremely hot, but when you're in, I don't know, 90-degree weather and your car needs gas and you have to walk up a ramp to go get gas. Like I felt really bad for the guy. I was like, why
uh
didn't anybody stop to help this gentleman? But like we live in a world where like anything could happen and anybody might be something that they're not projecting themselves to be.
yeah,
But it just makes me kind of sad. Like, man, why aren't people like that to like
just
be
helping each
helpful?
other out more.
Yeah, you know, if I would have saw him, I would have helped him. But he was already on his way back with the gas tank, so I was like, well,
Yeah,
I guess he got what he needed.
there's a lot of stuff going on nowadays that people just like even it breaks my heart to see like a veterans like older veterans just like asking for money on the side of the road where I'm like, I mean, if I was in that situation, I want someone to help me. So I always give them some money as much as I can,
Hmm.
and just try to pay it forward. And I know they'll probably do the same thing for someone else.
Yeah, that's one thing I do regret about not. I don't think I ever carry cash on me, but when I do see someone and they come up to me, sometimes you could tell who needs it and who doesn't. And I feel like
Yeah,
everybody who's ever asked me for it, like they always need it. And there's some days I do regret like not having
cash on you.
cash on me. Yeah, but then you have instances like my family. This happened like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even more. They were at Lowe's and my dad was on the phone, and a homeless person comes up and she's like, she knocks on my mom's window. She's like, "You got any cash?" And my mom's like, no, but maybe my husband might." And she goes to my dad. My dad's on a corporate call talking to like top-notch supervisors,
Hmm.
and she's like, "Hey, you got any cash on you?" And he's like, he gives her the finger, like, "Hold on." And then she's waiting, and he gets off the phone, and I think he's like, she says, you made me wait all this time. You're not gonna give me any cash." And he's like, "I was gonna give you cash, but now that you treat me like this, I'm not gonna give you any cash." I was like,
Man,
"Oh my god!" Like, there's people out there that are like that. That just expect things, I guess.
uh, I don't know if you've been out recently, but they try to get you at the gas station too. They say they're gonna pump for they're gonna pump gas, and you just don't even see them anymore.
No, I I go to the one here by my house, but I haven't haven't really had that experience.
Happens a lot at night.
Oh yeah, I try not to get gas at night unless I'm like really lazy, because I know like before work, like I don't have much time to do much before work because I usually sleep in. I'm like I'm tired. I want to sleep in.
Yeah,
Um.
no, when I was in my warehouse job, leave, coming home at like 5:30 in the morning,
Oh yeah.
and you just want to go home, so you just pump gas, and then so you don't have to do it when you have to go back, and that's when you start seeing the crazies
Mhm.
in the middle of the night.
I don't want to cut us off, but we are approaching the hour mark. You have any last things you want to say?
This was fun. This was I definitely want to do this again.
Definitely fun. I feel like we did pretty good. I feel we weren't as bad as I probably thought we were gonna be.
That's awkward.
It was fun. Definitely for sure was fun. I could see myself doing this a lot more. I just, I hope you guys vibed out with this too. Just kind of, thought about things yourselves like, well, how was my childhood? And this podcast, we want to just talk about everything and anything except, controversial stuff. We don't want to, divide the audience, but we do enjoy talking. I can tell you that much. And food. We really do love food.
Do love our food. We're on the hefty side,
Yep. Well, everybody, I hope you did enjoy this podcast. This is Motel A&M. This is Michael and Alex signing off.
I guess.
Later.